Welcome to Joy in Our Town. I'm Jackie Phillips, and today our issue is families. We are joined by Dr. Gilda Carle. She's a relationship expert, and she's also a wonderful author. We're going to discuss marriage and divorce. Thank you for being here, Dr. Gilda Carle.
My pleasure.
What is the biggest problem in every marriage?
Okay, two people find each other, they fall in love, and they figure, oh, we're going to live happily ever after. There is you, there is me, but they obliterate the we. So what people have to remember to do is take the M in me and tilt it around upside down to the we. It's crucial that you remember that there are really three entities in your life now. You, me, and we. And if you don't concentrate and really focus on that we, then your partner is going to feel something is missing.
Why do people say marriage takes work?
Because it does. You have a choice. You can either make marriage sizzle or let marriage fizzle. You know, letting is just, I'll just let it go and it'll take care of itself. Well, it's a job. Nothing just takes care of itself. You have to work at everything you do and everything you get if you want to be successful. So you have to be conscious all the time that there's another person in your life and then that third entity, which is the we. And you're always walking a tightrope to see what really comes first. And if you're used to living on your own and being on your own for a long period of time, all of a sudden you're going to have to lose that selfishness and not become selfless, which is where you're walking around like a dish rag, but instead be self-caring while you're caring for your partner and caring for the relationship. That's a lot of work.
That's a lot of work.
Yes.
What if you sense your marriage is not how it used to be?
Well, is anything the way it used to be? It used to be the 7-year itch that we heard about. Mm-hmm. Oh, they even had a movie by that name. But since that time, it's changed to the 3-year glitch. And that's when, according to all statistics, marriage starts to look not so wonderful anymore. The marriage that you're in starts to get convenient and comfortable, all too comfortable. And if you think that you are treating your spouse like an old shoe, then you probably are, and you better stop. Because if you feel you're treating your spouse as an old shoe, that's the way your spouse feels like, an old shoe.
How does respect enter the equation?
Aretha Franklin had it absolutely right. R-E-S-P-E-C-T. That's what it's all about. I had a client who told me, she's on her second marriage now, she told me that, oh, they get along pretty well. And I said, what does well mean? She said, well, when I want something, I just go ahead and do it. And he says it's okay. Like the other night, he was watching TV, and it was just too noisy. So I went ahead, turned off the television. That's your eyes opening. Yeah, exactly. I said, whoa, that is so disrespectful. And she had not heard that word, disrespectful, when we talked about the marriage earlier. So it gave her something to really tune in on. And then we looked at other things that were also very disrespectful that she was doing. So we wanted this to be her last marriage, not to go on to number 3.
Yes. What if you're angry at your mate?
Oh, well, you know, everybody thinks that's terrible if you're angry. But you know what I say? It's the best thing that could happen. Because if you're angry at your mate, your emotions are still pumping for your mate. Mm-hmm. So what I do when I'm working with clients is I take that anger and channel it into something positive. So what are you really feeling? What are your emotions over this incident that occurred? well, he did this and he did that, if it's a woman who's talking to me. He and he and he are accusations. And I instead say, turn that all around. Now let's look at this situation from the standpoint of what you did in the equation to get to this point. And then the eyes open wide. But if you're angry, anger is a normal, natural emotion that tells you something's not right and something has to change. So if you're angry, bless your anger and say, thank you, God. I still have great feelings for my mate. Now I can work with them.
Are there some things that a person should do when they're angry? Like maybe should they wait a day? Should they handle it right away?
Well, some people who wait a day have it percolating inside, and they get angrier and angrier and angrier, and that very often leads to behaviors that are not terribly productive, such as saying something and doing something else, like saying, oh yes, I'll pick up your clothes from the dry cleaners, and then somehow forgetting. That's called passive aggression. I mean, that kind of thing is not good. But the opposite of love is not anger. It's apathy. So understand that if you're angry, you're blessed. If you're angry, you can take those negative emotions and channel them into something more positive.
Why is the divorce rate so high?
Why are we in such a disposable society now? You know, people come to me and they say, oh, well, he did this and he did this. That's it. I'm leaving. Well, wait a minute. Between what he did and the fact that you want to leave, what happened to all the other space? You know, anybody can have a great marriage. Anybody can have a marriage that will last forever in some fairy tale. But the reality is, when you are in crisis, that's when the challenges really occur. And that's when you can truly express your love. And it's very important for you to work harder. Because when you get through a crisis, then suddenly you're bonded even greater.
What are some steps to get through a crisis?
Oh, very simply. Talk about what you're going to do. Not yesterday what he did or she did. Not in the future, in about a year from now, maybe we can take a trip to so-and-so. But right now, what can we do? Let's talk about treating each other in our home as a guest, not as an old shoe. How about starting to have adventures? Once a week, pick one adventure that neither of you has ever gone on before. What about looking at each other and giving each other honest compliments for the positive things that each other does? What about telling each other, I am so proud to be with you because? Very often in our day-to-day situation, we forget about doing this. We forget about all the niceties. And if you can simply remember to treat your mate as a guest in your own home, just imagine how much better that would be.
What can people do right this minute besides that?
Well, right this minute, they have to look and see how much they're grateful for. You know, you can find fault with anything and anybody if you want to. But instead of seeing the glass half empty or even the glass half full, I would rather that everybody just see the glass as overflowing with goodness and light and happiness and kindness and giving. When your mate gets dressed in the morning, say, wow, you look so wonderful. You look so hot. You look so happy. You look so beautiful. What about just these little niceties? It's like winding somebody up and sending them out the door with fuel that they've been longing for and that they've been missing. Because the number one problem in every single marriage, as people tell us, is boredom. Well, why are you bored? Think about that. What about the excitement that brought you together? Get back to that and have these mini adventures together. Life is about living together and loving together. It's not meant to be negative and angry and hostile.
If a person is on the verge of a divorce, are there some steps that they can take that may bring them to even do these things? Because when people are so angry, it's hard.
Well, when people are angry, they say things that they don't even mean. Like, that's it, here's my ring, goodbye. I'm out the door. So before you do that, you have to take a deep breath. Breath is very important. Take a deep breath. Take a time out. Go walk around the block. Go listen to my favorite, country music. Hear about how other people have been challenged and have gotten over the challenge. And then go back to your mate and not only talk, but touch. And imagine the blood flowing between you. And imagine that you are one, just as you used to be. That's how you came together. And say, we have a problem. How can we work this out? Again, it gets back to the we. It's not your problem or his problem. It's our problem. And think about, if you're sitting at home and watching this now, think about the pronouns that you use. Are you saying I, or you in accusation? Or are you really describing yourselves as we? That's the answer. That's the key.
This is amazing.
It's really so much easier than we make it.
Well, thank you, Dr. Gilda. And we're going to continue our conversation after these messages. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Look, here's a charge for something we didn't order.
Good catch.
I don't think you should ever pay for any bill unless you have first made sure that all the charges are correct.
Speaking of which, have you heard of the latest Medicare scams? This happened to my friend. A man came to her door claiming he was from Medicare. He had a smooth line about helping seniors with the high cost of their medicines, but she had to give him her Medicare number right then before the deadline. Well, when she got her Medicare summary notice, it was full of charges for services she hadn't received. Turns out this guy was a scam artist.
Medicare already has everyone's number. They wouldn't need to ask for it.
Scams like these hurt every taxpayer, draining billions from Medicare and making it harder for people like us to get the health benefits we're entitled to. So I did something about it. I joined the Senior Medicare Patrol, where I work with other volunteers to teach my neighbors how to protect their Medicare numbers, review statements to spot false charges and detect errors, and report suspected fraud.
Mom was diagnosed with Alzheimer's at 58 years old. 8 years into the disease was when all the light went out.
For me, it was heart-wrenching.
Looking into the eyes of somebody with Alzheimer's, sometimes you just don't see the person's soul is like gone.
And it takes a toll on everyone. I mean, it's a depressing disease to watch unfold before your eyes.
She actually thought those of us who were caring for her and who loved her most were her worst enemies.
More and more responsibilities fell on my shoulders.
This disease just ravages a family.
It changes your life.
The magnitude of it is indescribable. My mother taught me to be in the moment.
We have to live in the moment with them.
And I'm going to be with that person right now in this moment, wherever she is.
Now is the moment. If we work together, we can stop this epidemic.
Contact Bright Focus and learn more.
Hi, welcome to Joy in Our Town. I'm Jackie Phillips, and our issue today is families. We are joined by relationship expert and author, Dr. Gilda Carle, who is the president of Country Cures. We're going to discuss families in the military. Thank you so much for being here.
It's always my pleasure.
So can you please tell us, what impact does the military life have on personal relationships?
Well, the statistics don't lie. The deployed veterans who are deployed to Afghanistan and Iraq are now showing a 42% increase in divorce. So, you know, there's a country music song. Of course, I love my country music. There's a country music song by Derek Scholl that says, "They don't come back the same." Now, I know as a relationship expert, whoever touches us teaches us. So imagine being touched by war. War dents people. And they come back thinking, oh, now we're going to start our life all over again, the life that we left. But in reality, they can't start their life that they left because they are different people. And now they have to do some kind of adaptation to this civilian world that they don't even know. And that's what's difficult. So if somebody comes back with an injury, that's very difficult to cope with. I mean, let's say it's a man. He comes back with an injury. His wife is now the caretaker. She didn't sign up for that. She signed up to be his mate. And now suddenly she's in a caretaker role. And for how long? If he's without a limb, he needs all this rehab, he needs, what about a job? He needs a job, he needs things that they did not measure into the equation when they got started. So everybody's roles are different. And what we do in our country, and they're doing the best they can in most instances, is look to provide our veterans with jobs. God bless you for doing that if you're doing that. Look to provide veterans with housing. God bless you if you're doing that. But they're not going to sustain the jobs and housing unless they feel good enough about themselves that they deserve to have these sustained opportunities. And that's what we do at Country Cures. We give them relationship skills. And it's transition training for them when they come back, because the families are very much pulled apart.
How are veterans' children affected by their being away and then returning?
See, now, the children are the forgotten people. At Country Cures, we created a program called I'm Here Too. You can understand, because the children are forgotten. They have been shown statistically to have 2.5 times more psychological problems than other children. They have been shown to get into drugs and alcohol more often, and bullying. So we've set up anti-bullying programs. You know, nobody is doing this part of the work with veterans that is so essential. So the children have to be attended to also. And they're very much a part of the family. And we cannot allow them to be forgotten.
Let's talk about combat. How does the experience of entering combat affect the individual and their family?
Well, it's again, you know, this is what you see. This is what the image that you will never get out of your mind. You keep seeing this. Many of the veterans who I work with talk about the fact that their friends didn't come home. And they're undergoing a lot of guilt. How come I was spared and they weren't? Might I have been able to do something better than what I did? I mean, all of these emotions are still in their minds. But I'd like to turn that around to something much more positive. A lot of our veterans don't understand how to use their phenomenal military training and convert that into jobs here in our world, in the civilian world. And transition training also provides them to understand that they have skills that the average person doesn't have. And they have this ability that they just have to learn how to sell on job interviews, because what they have, that experience, can either bring them down or bring them up. And we would prefer to think and allow them and show them how they can be brought up.
Now that women will be entering combat, what can we expect?
The women are having a hard time. Not as much in the field, in combat, but when they come home. Let's look at the military. It's mostly a male bastion. It's logical, it's sequential, it's predictable, and all of those things are traits of men.
Yes.
However, what are our traits? Female traits are creativity, relationships, spontaneity, spirituality, and they come home, the women, and working with them is amazing. They are proud, they are aggressive, they are dedicated to everything that they do. And they come home and they find out the civilian world isn't interested in strong, aggressive, proud women. They want women to be softer and not so out there. And the women are very, very confused.
Is there a difference in the way male veterans and female veterans return to civilian life?
Well, men can still be men. The male model for the women disallows that and looks down their noses on these women who are trying to be as they were in the military. It's suddenly, you have to turn the switch off, honey, if you want that job, because you can't be so aggressive here. So what is so necessary is that these women understand they have such amazing skills, and these skills can be translated into jobs and into a life. There was one woman that I met with, and she was on the front lines in combat. She came back here to civilian life. She's walking with a cane, and she's having difficulty. And why? She was in a relationship when she got out, and she was so battered. I said, wait a minute. You protected our country. You've been out there. What happened? What do you think happened to you? She said, I had very low self-esteem. Now, how does somebody who's so strong and aggressive and successful on the front lines come home to feel as though she's nothing? We've got to serve our women better.
What can we do for our veterans?
I use country music with all of our programs. Why? Because country music tells stories. Women love stories. Country music strings match the energy of the heart, the pericardium, the intestines, the adrenal, the thyroid. These make people feel good. And finally, country music. Everybody knows it. It's gone so mainstream. And I can play somebody a song and say, how did that person in the song work out his problem or her problem? Now let's move that to you and see how that can apply to you.
What does Country Cures do to help veterans and their families?
Well, we do something that's never been done before. We use country music, we do education, and we do skills building. 4 relationship skills that both men and women can identify with. Self-esteem, conflict management, interpersonal communications, and diversity sensitivity. Even if people come home without a leg and they're different, be sensitive to what you have that is not a problem, but a solution to something that you're going to do in this world. Everything that we're given is an opportunity if we look on it as such. And that's what Country Cures does so differently with country music.
Well, thank you, Dr. Gilda. It was so nice to have you, and congratulations on Country Cures. And keep doing the great work. And we'd love to have you
God's
back.
help. Thank you, baby.
Thank you for watching Joy in Our Town. We will see you next time.
This program has been sponsored by the Trinity Broadcasting Network and is made possible by your telethon dollars. Your continual support can keep Joy in Our Town coming to your home every week. Write to Joy in Our Town, Post Office Box A, Santa Ana, California, 92711.